Welcome, everyone. Good morning to you, Versan. Good afternoon for the audience. For me in Greece, back home, almost good night. It's actually 8 p.m. here. How's everyone doing today? How are you, Versan?
Can't complain. Good afternoon. I'm just glad you made it home safe. You were
Oh,
in a
thank
very dangerous part of the world, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my experience as I was traveling to Israel. I don't want to make this political. I just want to share my raw experience on how is that side of the world. As you guys know, there was no specific reason why I went to Israel. I just enjoy traveling. I travel. If you follow my channel, I follow. I travel to many countries in the last year. I think I have been to around 40 countries so far. So being based in Europe, it's very easy to travel. So it takes just 1.5 hours to get from Greece, where I live right now in Athens, to Tel Aviv. So I was there, and I tell you guys, I was not expecting it, but there are a lot of tensions in Israel. I was thinking the situation was actually changing for the better, but honestly, the situation is escalating. So basically, I left Tel Aviv 2 days ago, and I flew home from Terminal 3. I left at 9 a.m. Exactly 2 days ago. So that was on the Saturday. And just yesterday, let me bring something here to the screen. 1 second. Just yesterday, the airport was hit by an attack by missiles. They claim it's the Houthis. We can talk about that. I want to hear Versan's opinion on that as well. Some people say it was from Iran, and as a matter of fact, Israel is continuously attacking Palestine. And the things are very interesting because this explosion in the airport has injured 7 people. And I was in the same terminal, which was Terminal 3, that was hit by this attack for the first time. The defense system couldn't catch the airstrike. And it was just exactly 24 hours after I left the country. And now they closed the international flights towards Tel Aviv. So, generally speaking, and this is also my raw experience there that I wanted to share. Now, I don't think it's a safe moment for anyone to travel there. I could feel a lot of tensions in Tel Aviv. There is military presence literally everywhere. I mean, even I'll not lie, Tel Aviv is a beautiful city. I was by the sea. I had everything of the best there, but it's a lot of tension. So it seems that the situation is not getting any better. And if you ask me, I think the Middle East tensions are going to escalate. And as you can see here, it's already happening. I got this impression when I was leaving the country that it would not be possible to go back there anytime soon. I mainly took this trip because we are Christians in my family, and I got my grandmother visiting me, and she always wanted to go to Jerusalem, so I decided to take her there. And I didn't realize uh, I quite took some risk by traveling there. So I want to hear your thoughts on that verse and what you think is gonna cook for the Middle East situation, and that's gonna affect the geopolitical chessboard.
Well, again, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. Edo, so happy that you're safe. You and I were in touch while you were over there. Went back and forth a little bit on some funny messages, but without getting too political, because it's a very touchy subject. You can't. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think just overall, what you experienced over there confirms that the war is ramping up, or the narrative around it. So it's not just geopolitics. It's, I think, a strategic excuse to justify government spending, to expand liquidity, and to ultimately delay, or distract the reality of a global debt crisis, really. And recently, the other day, we even talked about this with Martin Armstrong, because war is actually the cover for money printing, and money printing is going to mask the insolvency. So, when Martin was trying to explain this to me, sure, there's a lot of details. There's historical context too. I saw a lot of comments. People are saying the interview was kind of boring. I understand. Believe me, I had to listen to it. But that's the difference, I think, between the facts and then, of course, the noise. So instead of following the headlines, people need to really look at the mechanisms behind all of this. And war certainly plays a critical role in masking insolvencies and giving a reason for central banks and financial institutions to print more money. Not to mention, I mean, if you look at the shortly after the war in Gaza, and I don't want to get into too much detail about that, but right afterwards, you found out that it was the military industrial complex, congressmen, senators that had their money in defense contracts. They all profited from the destruction of an entire people on both sides. Okay. And shortly after the war, hey, we're going to bring peace to the Middle East, they said, which they've been saying forever. None of it's happened. BlackRock, JP Morgan, and even the Trump administration or the family members in there, now they have contracts on the graveyards of thousands of people. They're trying to build a water slide, a hotel on top of the Gaza massacre. Think about that. People riding a water slide on top of the graves of thousands of dead people. I mean, without going into too much detail again, Edo. So yes, I do believe the war is ramping up. We talked about this many times, and I really think people just need to understand the reality behind it. War is very profitable. That's where the saying comes from, that every war is a banker's war. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's going to enhance further currency devaluation, which is an epidemic
Printing.
of currency devaluation. Talking about the economical situation, they also have hyperinflation in Israel, even though euro is worth 4 times more of their currency. 40 times when you convert to euros. But honestly, it's very expensive there. Even if you are coming with euros in Israel, that's going to be very expensive. And that further confirms that apparently there is not one country that is the big winner of these political changes that we are living through, these economical changes, but all fiat currencies are on the same boat, and who is going to be punished for that is the population. There's no single nation that's going to benefit from this transformation. The gap between the rich and the poor is going to increase exponentially, and it's already happening as the price of assets are going to become more and more expensive. So I don't really see any winners for that besides the fact of the ones that are going to fully understand this transformation. If you are invested in digital assets, perhaps if you own property, you are going to be perhaps the 1% that's going to benefit from this transformation. But the raw reality is that the population is becoming more and more financial struggling. That everyone is struggling financially, and that goes for every single country that I have visited in the last 24 months. Just in the last 24 months, probably I went to 15 or 20 countries, and I spoke to people all around the world, and that goes from Dubai, that goes from Mexico. I was basically everywhere in the last 24 months, and everyone complains about the same. How come every single nation has the same problems? So it really comes down to who's running the show. And if you do some research, it's about the central banks. The central banks are printing unlimited amount of fiat currencies. Now they have another excuse to print more fiat currencies, hence the war escalating in the Middle East. We also know that the United States massively profits from war as well. I have to tell the truth as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ongoing tensions on the Middle East, from my perspective, are also going to speed up the process. In order to turn off the system, you need to reset the system. You need to first turn off the system. So that means that the global reset is already happening. I don't think it's something we can say is going to happen in 2030. If you really understand the game, it's already happening. It's already in course. It has already started. And if you really understand what's happening, the middle class is getting absolutely crushed.
100%. Oh, I thought I was on mute for a second. I'm sorry. Totally agree with you. I mean, the one thing that really caught my attention this week, and I think a lot of people are not talking about it. We're so focused on making money in the digital asset space, but for the first time in like 4 years, a report came out on the purchasing power of the US dollar. And we can go back to the pandemic. That's where the inflation really came from, a lot of it, and it's always been around. But since the pandemic, it was like the most money that was ever printed in the United States, the history of the United States, within 4 years. And this report confirms, I found it on X this morning, that the dollar's purchasing power, no doubt about it, is really collapsing. It's the purchasing power that's collapsing. And what you see happening in the whole digital asset space is the evolution of the dollar and that, debt-based Ponzi scheme, you could call it, whatever. And yeah, it's getting to a point where, inflation is going to continue to escalate. I think, whenever people say that inflation is coming down, that's nonsense. Inflation historically never comes down. It doesn't ever reverse. It just continuously compounds. And I think at this time it's moving faster than anyone ever expected. And it's because they're pumping so much money into the economy. And even where we're going today, I think I got this information from a dear friend of ours. He was saying that they could possibly pump $30 trillion. And he went on a podcast because, on podcasts, you have to be a little more conservative with what you're saying. So he said 10 trillion. Even if they did pump 10 trillion in the economy, this just confirms again that they're trying to inflate their way out of a debt collapse. And here's the problem. It's just a tax base to support higher debt levels. That's collapsing too. So what I'm saying is that this could be the final hurrah for the dollar. Hence, that's why I put the title, The Last Illusion. And what I mean is I think they're going to blow this stock market up, this crypto space up, and that aligns cyclical with the 4-year cycles, but they're going to pump the market so high. And that's when you're going to see a real sharp collapse afterwards. And a lot of the things we've been talking about, digital IDs, artificial intelligence, collapsing supply chains, we'll talk about that in a bit. It's all converging, So I think the timing is a bit unusual. And yeah, it's very concerning. I think that's why we emphasize the importance of preserving wealth by holding physical assets. That's what the 1% are doing. We should do the same, right? And hey, if we're being so affected by the dollar, and it's not just the US, it's all currencies around the world, because currencies around the world are still tied to the dollar's reserve status, right? And that's why this is slowly coming to an end. So what I see happening is a economic reset, but it's happening in slow motion.
Totally agree, Versan. There is one comment I want to bring to the screen. I think that's very relevant. And that's about this person here, Knowledge Seeker. I like the username. So according to the UK National Statistics, 65% of the UK population does not have £3,000 emergency fund in their savings. I think that speaks a lot. And that's not only for the United Kingdom. I know in the United States, most of Americans don't even have $10,000 in their savings. And I tell you, in Europe, the situation is much worse. I don't think they have €1,000 on their savings, as people are being smashed by hyperinflation. The cost of living is through the roof. And that also enhances the fact that people will be priced out of digital assets. Consider now that if they don't even have £3,000 in the UK, which is considered to be one of the richest nations here in Europe. I know it's not part of the Union European anymore, but considering other European countries, well, UK has high standards, and if people there don't even have £3,000, I mean, it's very difficult for someone to hold or to own actually over 10,000 XRPs right now. So that also shows that most people are being priced out as prices are constantly increasing. Combined with the inflation, it becomes more and more difficult for the population to hold their digital assets. And that comes back to what I always say, how many people are going to be holding these digital assets, specifically XRP, when we are above $10? How many of them are going to be holding when we hit $100 per XRP? Well, I would argue that the vast majority, perhaps 95% of holders, unfortunately, are going to be priced out. Most of them will sell, let's say, at $10, and considering the economical situation, which is going to be far worse when that happens, people will be priced out. And that also answers to the fact that so many people who constantly have asked us, but how would they allow so many people to get rich out of these assets? And I think we're just getting the ultimate proof right now that People are being priced out, and the institutions are positioning themselves, and that further consolidates what David Schwartz has said, that we're going to have a institutional bull run before we're going to have a retail bull run. So I think that speaks a lot as well.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, Alex Vargas, I'm going to try my best to answer comments while I'm trying to explain these things as well. But is it, thoughts on buying real estate? I recommend everyone stops buying anything right now. If you can dollar cost average, that's great, into digital assets, things that have low overhead. Real estate, it's not the time and place to make money right now. What you need to do is position yourself accordingly. When the market starts to run, take your profits. Asset prices will eventually collapse, especially in real estate. There is a ticking time bomb over there. And when all these asset prices depreciate in real estate, that's when you go ahead and purchase what you can. $40 billion were in stocks and assets since April of last year. 40 billion retail investor funds. And, it's interesting because if you look at what the 1%ers have been doing, they've been selling and getting on the sidelines. Like, why are they doing that? Are they expecting some major corrections? It's possible. That's why I always tell people to have some cash too. Outside of the banking system, so there's no risk over there. But sorry, guys, for going on and on. But your question, Alex, stay away from real estate right now. Get into assets that are going to perform better in the short term, I would say. Because when you look at all the insolvencies, the deficits, the unbacked exposure in the not just the derivatives market, but in the commercial real estate market, I mean, there's going to be a catalyst that's going to trigger this. And it could be a few, a false flag attack. I mean, it could be anything, but just stay away from real estate right now. I know Grant Cardone, he was on my show before. And when we were talking to him off record, he mentioned that he was getting rid of a lot of his properties. And that indicates that he knows something maybe we didn't know, right, at the time. But I see what he's doing. They're getting rid of all their burdens. So there's a time and place to buy real estate. I don't think it's now. And to your point, Edo, I think it's even crazier how this purchasing power report came out. And we haven't seen anything like that for a while, since the pandemic, 2020, right? And also, I was watching the farmers, and they were also sounding the alarm. You can go on some of the podcasts out there, financial podcasts, even I think Kim, I forgot his name, David something. But they're talking about the supply chains. And I think it's just the playbook from the pandemic is kind of playing out in a little bit. And we're watching like the perfect storm form, you could say. The monetary system is collapsing. We have engineered supply disruptions. We have the rollout of full digitization and digital IDs. And you might call it a coincidence. I don't. I think it's bigger than that. So, yeah, just got to be ready, I guess. You're on mute, Edo.
Yeah, sorry for that. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just adding something to the real estate question, I think depends of where he's located on. I am not an expert on real estate in America, so I can't speak for America, but for what I have seen, I don't think is a great opportunity now in the United States. I think there is kind of a bubble, but my knowledge about real estate in America is limited, so I stick with what Versan has said. And well, I am an expert in real estate in Europe, so I can tell you that in many countries here, it's a bubble. So I think Portugal, Italy right now, or most of the European capitals, it's kind of overpriced already, even out of touch for the majority of the population. But you do have great opportunities in countries like Greece, hence why I moved to Athens. That's the main reason was for real estate. And I tell you here that you have great opportunities with real estate, and you can achieve like 2x or a 3x within a couple of years. That I tell you 100% can happen. And I did a list on my X of some of the best countries for real estate, but basically you want to see countries that are kind of underdeveloped, countries that are not a lot with a lot of technology advantages. Like in Europe, you have, for instance, Greece, or you can go for countries like Georgia or Bulgaria, Romania. All these countries are below European standards, so the cost of living is cheaper, and you have great opportunities with real estate. Is basically where banks didn't give enough capital to inflate the market. So basically, in Greece was very difficult for anyone to get a loan with the bank, and that means you got the raw prices. And right now they are incentivizing the loans here in Greece, so you're gonna have a leg up for real estate. So that's a great timing to get real estate. So it's a very complex topic. It's not like black and white, but you do have great opportunities in Europe. Now,
Yeah.
perhaps we can move
Well,
to the. Sorry, Versan, go ahead.
real quick, Edo. I totally agree with you on that. It does depend on your location, but I try to be, very realistic for the average individual here who is clinging to threads, right?
Yeah,
And that's the majority of the middle class. It's not practical to get into debt to get into real estate, like Robert
yeah,
Kiyosaki was
totally
teaching.
agree.
That system is not working anymore. That is the problem. The interest rates are way too high on the debt, on the loans. It's going to backfire at some point. I think there's a time and place for people to buy real
Totally
estate.
agree.
Right now, the best thing to be in is with the least overhead. The only changes that underpins where this direction of the trajectory is going of the monetary system, of everything around it, the reset of all things. Number one is the monetary system. You're better off investing in the infrastructures, building these systems. And when you're in the right time at the right place, I'm telling you, there's going to be opportunities for people to do this via smart contracts and whatnot. I mean, there's a time and place for that. I think people need to be smart right now, not ignorant about what to invest in. There's so much economic uncertainty. We have wars ramping up. These are the facts people don't want to hear. I understand that. Okay. It's not doom and gloom. These are the facts. I think people need to be hedging and preserving what they have left right now. You need to be in food, water, basic resources, necessities for survival. You need to be in gold, silver, real assets, monetary instruments, by the way. And what you need to do is invest in the infrastructure, where it's going. That is the best place to be in right now. And by the way, this is cyclical with the fact that we're seeing a reintroduction of these systems in place, because what's going to happen is money is going to move from overvalued markets, including real estate, the commercial bubble, and it's going to go into suppressed assets, suppressed emerging assets too. In this case, commodities have been suppressed forever. And that intersects with blockchain technology and tokenization, which is very positive, and fintech, financial technology. That's where the real bull run is, not real estate right now. So I agree with you, but
Totally agree. Especially if you
bring
need
some
to get
clarity
on debt, especially people in America that they rely on debt to get access to real estate. I think that's a terrible idea as well. That's the main point. Well, we could move towards the next topic of this conversation, which is the fact that Ripple made a bold offer to acquire Circle, and that's so interesting. $5 billion, and the deal is still being negotiated. There were rumors that they increased the price to 20 billion. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's how business works. They just simply don't 4x their offer overnight. So I think that was false information. But the fact that they indeed offer $5 billion to acquire Circle, that's very relevant. Why don't you get started, Versan? Share your thoughts on that. I'm very curious. We didn't have the opportunity to talk about this yet, not even off camera. So I'm very curious to hear.
Let me pull up the picture. This one's cute. It's Pac-Man Ripple eating everything. I love it. Yes, the biggest topic in the Ripple community, XRP community, was the whole acquiring of Circle. To me, I did put a tweet out about this, but I didn't dissect it like I'm going to try to right now. But for me, it was about the statement, the move alone. For me, is very loud. It means basically that, for them to make a bold move like that, it's important. And what I think is this is just a natural evolution of a larger plan already at play that maybe some people don't know about, but I think our community is really educated in this space. Ripple already has the global reach, has the global influence. Ripple Net is the net of the distributed ledger technology, which is the actual technology that's in place, working with the very same institutions having these headlines. All right. So again, there's no question about it. Ripple is going to play the most critical role in the shift that we're seeing today. Even Brad Garlinghouse recently said this on, I don't know if it was CNBC. I don't watch, Brad talk publicly anymore, but he said XRP is at the center of what Ripple is trying to do. I mean, the devil's in the detail. So basically what he's saying is Ripple wouldn't be shit without XRP. That's why I told people to stay away from Ripple IPO, Ripple stocks. That's the other things the XRP community was pushing, and I was telling people not to. Yeah, you're better off investing in the XRP itself because that's where the value is. That's what gives Ripple any meaning, by the way. So then you have all these other questions about where did XRP really come from, right? And I know Edo is better at that, but when you zoom in on the stablecoin market, especially those issued on the XRP Ledger, you're going to realize that this is not just a random move. The XRP Ledger is going to require the XRP to transfer any value. It's also the bridge asset, bridge currency that enables liquidity, cross-border functionality, all those things we can talk about, those fancy words. But it's at the heart of where the system is evolving. So it only makes sense that Ripple would actually try to consolidate a stablecoin infrastructure as part of the larger puzzle. And here's where it gets interesting. Whether Ripple actually acquires Circle or doesn't, I don't give a crap. It doesn't mean shit to me. It really doesn't. And I've said this for years because the snowball is already rolling. XRP is continuously gaining momentum. It's bigger, it's faster, and it has so much force that nothing is going to stop it. For many years now, Ripple has been quietly building the infrastructure behind the scenes. It's not going to stop. They've acquired the digital infrastructure. They've set up the on and off ramps, which is very important. They've established openly the liquidity corridors. And we can confirm this because it's backed politically by real institutions that have and originate the capital, the liquidity. So not hype coins like SWI. Some people are talking about SWI now and asking me questions. I'm happy to explain this in a bit. I got an argument with my friend about it, and he doesn't know anything about crypto space. Anyways, so when it comes to stable coins, and sorry for the long answer, whether it's RLUSD or something else, the long-term trend I think is very clear. Money eventually will consolidate around Ripple issued or Stellar issued stable coins. Why? Because it's actually those two networks that are at the forefront, no matter what anybody says, the noise. All this breaking news coverage is just headline noise, in my opinion. It doesn't change the trajectory. It just confirms what we've known for years, what we've been saying for years. I saw another nonsense article the other day, and these are pundits. You can see them. They can't even spell my name correctly when they're writing it. I mean, you're going to trust people who put these headlines out? Come on. It's just clickbait. They said Ripple against Chainlink. Who's going to dominate the space? And that debate misses the entire point of what we've been talking about here. And openly, the CEO of Hedera said this before. He said, it's not a rivalry. He said the technologies are going to be complementary. And what did I say? I said, you see, guys, I told you, right? So final thoughts on Circle. I think those who follow me on Instagram, I have a document right here. For those who follow me on Instagram, I was at the pool the other day, and I shared an article that I have in my old stash from 2019. And guess what it says? I'm going to read it to you. Christine Lagarde warned banks that they need to act and adopt to new technologies to better serve their customers. She highlighted the impact of Ripple's distributed ledger technology with Goldman Sachs-backed crypto startup Circle. 2019, guys. So what I'm saying is this headline is not even new. It's just resurfacing now because it fits with the timeline of everything that's happening in the world. It's all converging. We have a Trump administration that's pro-crypto. We have the collapse of an outdated financial infrastructure. And at the same time, we have the rise of Ripple at the center of it all. So, I mean, this is all already out there. Same thing with what you see in the headlines now, Edo. You keep seeing these headlines about, is Swift going to adopt Ripple, or is Ripple going to replace Swift? I have the documents right here. And I'm telling you, people keep calling this stuff breaking news, you know. Anyways, I mean, it's out there. So when it comes to Circle, eventually Ripple is going to dominate the stablecoin asset space. And if they don't acquire Circle, who gives a shit? They run the on and off ramps, the liquidity corridors. So if anything, even for Bitcoin to survive, and I've said that in 2022, it's going to depend on the cross-border functionality, the liquidity that the XRP Ledger will provide. You know what I mean?
Totally
I mean, it's
agree.
just so many layers to it, you know, and you have to look at this from different angles. That's the problem. They're not looking at it from different angles. They just give one side of the story. You got to look at this thing through so many angles, and you can see it and understand it. The funny thing is this final thought, I'm very sorry. it's a multi-dimensional chess game, you could say, that's actually at play. And this has nothing to do with Trump. Just saying from my perspective, you find out that XRP is not just the perfect technology. It's the perfect cross-border solution. And it's not just for payments, for liquidity, for interoperability, for remittances. I mean, I can go on and on. You see what I mean? So you either see it or you don't at this point. I'm serious. Yeah.
Totally agree. It's a very complex subject. And
Well, it used to be.
throughout it, I'm not muted now, right?
No, you're not.
Right. Well, throughout the years, I have always looked at Circle as first at a respectable company, totally different from my vision towards Tether and USDT. And I remember going to the main events in Europe. Circle was everywhere, together with Ripple. You mentioned Christine Lagarde. She has praised both Circle and Ripple at times. And sometimes I was wondering, perhaps Circle is one of the few companies on the same playing field as Ripple. Perhaps they could be a competitor to Ripple. I was questioning myself in the past. So, really, now it seems that the puzzle is coming together. And there are some interesting facts about Circle. So, they have interesting partnerships with Visa, Mastercard, BlackRock, and they are also integrated on the Stripe payment system with USDC. More interesting, USDC is also MiCA compliant, and we know that the digital euro has a huge probability that will integrate features of the XRP Ledger. So the fact that Ripple is acquiring Circle, or is actually not acquiring, but they are making the proposals. We don't really know if the deal is going to come through, but I think that's a gateway for Ripple in Europe. There might be some legal framework or perhaps the integration of both technologies. I don't think real stablecoin is going to be the only stablecoin. As we know, interoperability is the key for the system. So I think they are complementary technologies. And for me, that sounds a lot like a strategical move for Ripple to position itself as a tier one financial institution in the same level field as World Bank, perhaps as the International Monetary Fund or the Bank of International Settlements. And by dominating the stablecoin realm, Ripple can actually become a liquidity provider for the banks, and it can evolve from just a private company, as we are being told that Ripple is a private company. I think that's very debatable. I don't see Ripple as a private company, especially when we understand who's behind Ripple, or we can see from many angles, no, the history behind Ripple, people in the board of directors of this company that are tied to the US Treasury, that are tied to the Fed. So putting all of this together, I think that's this movement is not a coincidence. I don't think they do anything by chance. I think that was orchestrated and is part of a long-term plan that has the ultimate goal to position XRP as a world reserve currency. That's how I see the situation now. If the deal is going to go through, I really don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but regardless, if it happens, I think that's great for the ecosystem. If it doesn't go through, they don't really need to acquire Circle to reach all of these goals that I mentioned previously, but I think that would just speed up the process as they have USDC fully compliant with MiCA regulation. I think it's a gateway for Ripple to penetrate the European markets, which, let's be honest, Central Bank of Russia already tested on top of the XRP Ledger. Montenegro built a pilot test on top of XRP Ledger. They have euro as a currency. So I think they are just preparing the ground for what's coming. That's how I see it.
You know, Edo, you and I are in total alignment with each other. That's why I love you, man. David and my brother. David and Vindel were supposed to be here. I don't know what the hell happened. Well, you know, just to top on to what you said, like I have a document right here. I want to try to like show this to people. Like I carry all these physical documents. There was one time where Jimmy Valley sent me a link, and that's where I got the it was an article about BlackRock and JP Morgan from a JP Morgan analyst about buying the XRP 7.5% of their entire wealth. And people, oh my God, I got so criticized by that. By the way, I still got criticized the other week when I told people 2 weeks ago that the United States Treasury was going to start tokenizing dollars via RLUSD, the stablecoin, to accelerate the settlement mechanism, boost liquidity, and to extend the global footprint to keep the dominant reserve status. They all criticized me. Now they're calling it breaking news. I'm not even joking. Like, that really just made me upset. You know, it's like they always do this. So even to what your point is, like, here is a document from 2019 also, not kidding. Ripple partnered with Visa in 2019 to enable instant payments in Indonesia. Another RippleNet member boosts its global presence. So, like, again, you know, just to top on what you said, you mentioned something about BlackRock too. Here it is. You can all go do your research. And the fact that information in the past has been scrubbed off the internet. The article I posted with the link, it got removed, I'm not even kidding, in minutes after it started getting traction. So that's when I started. Well, yeah, that's when I started to print these things and highlight them and put them in my folders. I have 3 folders like this now. Used to be 1, now it's 2, then 3, right? So I keep track of this stuff. And I've met with some of my clients here in Houston where I actually showed them this stuff, you know, in person at a restaurant or at a bar. So BlackRock hired a blockchain VP, and this one is 2020, December 24th. You can all look it up. BlackRock is hiring a blockchain VP. Try to Google research that. And when you scroll on, it says to be continued. When you scroll on to the next page, it says in April 2019, BlackRock hired former Ripple executive Robbie Mitchnick. You guys who know who Robbie Mitchnick is. Now, this is where it gets interesting because around 2020 is when the lawsuit, you know, began. And you start to wonder about these things. And look what he said here, Robbie Mitchnick. Makes me a little concerned, but he said, if you're willing to sacrifice on true decentralization and have a predetermined set of institutional validators, which in many use cases is perfectly a reasonable trade-off, which it's not, by the way, then actually speed and scalability can be orders of magnitude much higher. Very interesting how he said that, you know, very interesting. It makes you wonder, again, about the whole decentralization, centralization thing, but I don't want to get off topic. It's just we can have these discussions for hours. So yes, this is, like, I got to tell you, you know, we're at a point, I think, where you either see it or you don't. And I know I reiterated myself over there. But I think when you start to look about where's the real potential in this space, where are the real winners, I think they're the ones without the loudest communities. They're the ones that are building the plumbing to the new financial system. They're all ISO 222 compliant, ready to go, already plugged in with global standards, quietly building those systems that the average retail investor still cannot understand. And that's where the money is going to be made. And I can even go deeper into this. Like, example, when you look at all the past hype cycles, I think, and a lot of market buzz, right? Projects like SWI now, and my friend and I, we had this big argument about SWI, and I'm happy to talk about it, but these so-called next-gen chains, every day somebody's pumping something new to me. Hey, Versan, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I said, I think it's okay. And it kind of cyclical with the 4-year cycles. We can get into that in a second here. But I said, why don't you instead focus on the actual financial powerhouses, power centers that are building the actual infrastructure, right? That's when you get a very clear picture about how this is really playing out in real time. Anyways, yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay, but I am pulling here some articles, and one of them is, this one is very interesting. As we mentioned, Visa. VELO has a strategic partnership with Visa.
Yeah.
So you can see that this is all connected. There is not one big winner. I mean, the future is for interoperability, and we're going to have all of this ISO 20022 compliance. We can talk about XRP, the XLM, and also some coins built on top of XRP and XLM. We know that we spoke so many times about VELO. SHX, also a huge player, considering that they have a partnership with Visa. And we have so many connections of Ripple together with Visa, Mastercard, and now adding Circle back to the equation, I think that's just more and more confirmations of what we have been speaking on this podcast for over 1 year. Over 1 year in the
Oh my
turning.
God, man. Longer than that, man.
Yeah, I mean, how long we have been doing the turning point, but before the turning point, we individually had our own channels and we were basically predicting everything that has happened in the last years.
I mean, many people are not aware. I used to have a channel before called Blockchain Billionaire. I don't know, maybe my early followers remember this. This was in 2020, 21 too. And what happened was when I started to discuss the pandemic, because I was the first person in my family to stand up and say, this is bullshit. And I remember I was talking about the pandemic. We were already studying XRP at that time. And I said, oh my God, I see what they're doing here. It was so big, I had to put it on paper. I had to somehow put it into a video. And when I explained the whole thing, even COVID-19, do you know what the 19 stands for? Artificial intelligence, AI. When I started to see what they were doing about collapsing the economy, accelerating the reset, again, whether the deep state is neutered or not, I really don't care. Okay, this is the trajectory so far, and it's still ongoing. And when I realized what they were doing about resetting the economy, accelerating the digitization, and I'm talking about a 2030 agenda for transhumanism, don't want to get into that, but when I started to bridge these things together, and XRP was even back then critical to that conversation with digital IDs and stuff, I'm not kidding. My account got shut down. All my work gone, erased. You can find some of it on Rumble still, but not everything. So, I paid the price to voice my opinion at the time. And what's funny is that everything I said back then is now fact. Edo? So it's been a very long journey for me. It really has.
Yeah, I have been following your journey for a long time and honestly was one of the only YouTubers that sometimes I would come to your channel to get the raw information, to get what's really going on. And I am so glad that with over time we connected and today we have this wonderful podcast here. And here on the screen, this is also from Mastercard website. So is safe the new sexy and CBDC's trust and the evolution of money. And here we can see some of the countries that were exploring CBDCs together with MasterCard. So you have England, Hong Kong, Brazil, Australia, and the United States. And they kick off this with a wonderful sentence. The inaugural set of partners include CBDC platform Ripple, which likely stands for the XRP Ledger. And here they're talking about everything, digital identity, CBDCs, and it's just more confirmations. I mean, MasterCard now partners with Ripple. We know they have an open partnership. And I just think that everything's coming together on this multi-dimensional chess game, as you mentioned earlier, Versan. I don't know which topic you want to cover next. I don't know if we have more.
We have time. It's fine. I mean, we run the show here. This is great. I mean, I can go on for hours like this. Like I do this privately behind the scenes with my friends and whatnot. So I'm always happy to have these discussions, Edo, especially with you and, my David and my brother. And I love our audience. I really do. I have so much respect for our audience just because you guys know how to think outside the box. And, that's what a community really is. We're on the same wavelength. Maybe we don't agree on everything, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't mean we can't come together. And please stop asking me about Jake Claver. I love Jake. I mean, I know him he's a really decent gentleman, right? So no more further comments on Jake, please. Don't put me in that position because I have a big mouth and I think you guys know that and you're trying to take advantage of the situation. I think what we should do, Edo, is maybe talk a little bit about Bitcoin.
Oh, I love Bitcoin.
Oh, yes. I wrote a rap about Michael Saylor and Bitcoin the other day. It was so funny. What did I say? Yeah. It's like I called Edo one night. We had a glass of wine and I was rapping. I was making music. What did I say? I said, it was so funny. Michael Saylor, legend of the loss, went to Walmart, can't buy his own floss. It's funny. No clue, no plan, but he's still selling Bitcoin on Instagram. But in my honest opinion, I think a lot of the people who do follow Bitcoin very closely, I don't think they really have an understanding about how Bitcoin's function is, what it is meant to do. We've talked about this so many times, Edo, but Bitcoin, the so-called liquidity that they have, that is an illusion. It's propped up by synthetic volume, wash trading, and questionable stablecoin tactics like Tether. If you actually do the research into Bitcoin, they do have these exchanges you've never heard about, full of AI, and one of them was in Ukraine. Maybe that's why they're trying to protect Ukraine too. Who knows, right? I'm just saying, again, it's a multi-dimensional kind of thing. And in Ukraine, and not just Ukraine, Kazakhstan, like what the hell is an exchange doing out there? I mean, that's like a third world country, right? So they have these exchanges with artificial intelligence, and they do buy sell limits constantly back and forth. I think they're doing the same thing with XRP, by the way. That's what's holding the price around. Who knows, right? But that is creating the illusion of volume. And everybody is like speculating on that then, right? Retail investors. And if you talk to most people here in the real world, and, you know, I go to a restaurant, like, do you accept digital assets? I even ask them if they accept gold and silver. I know their answer, but I just do it for the sake of conversation. And they're like, Bitcoin? It's like everyone knows Bitcoin because it's so touted, right? I mean, for them to put billions of dollars into marketing Bitcoin and not billions of dollars to marketing Ripple, which is doing something, I mean, that raises some flags over there. So going back to the illusion of Bitcoin, what people don't understand, and Matthew Piepenberg gave us credit for this, which is amazing. They're treating Bitcoin very similar to oil to create demand for dollars. It's not conspiracy. It's actually verifiable. If you actually look at the on-chain analytics, the regulatory blind spots that were intentionally put there to allow this to continue, what you find out is that billions of dollars have been slowly siphoned from retail investors, stolen, siphoned, and through the fake volume and the orchestrated market cycles that are aligned with the 4-year cycles. And that is designed to lure in retail, the investors under the promise of a store of value against inflation. And that wealth, what does it do? Every time they have those massive corrections in Bitcoin, the money doesn't vanish. It actually gets extracted by the insiders, not the retail. Very few people do get to survive that. They get out quick. They take their profits, right? At the top of each of these cycles. But what do they do with it? They take that money, they rotate it into real assets, gold, treasury bills, that's T-bonds, which gives the government more strength to issue new debt so they can go back and buy Bitcoin again and do the same damn thing again. That's that revolving door. Real estate, strategic technologies. In my opinion, and I know this sounds crazy, we know for a fact that Ripple does predate Bitcoin as far as the tech. What I'm saying is that it's very possible that Bitcoin is also being used to fund Bitcoin's global, Bitcoin is being used to fund Ripple's global infrastructure for all we know. I'm just throwing it out there. That's a speculation, but there's a very possible.
That makes a lot of sense, considering that early Bitcoin developers actually went on and built what we call Ripple and the XRP Ledger, and that's not a secret. I pulled an image from Ripple's website, I think 10 years ago. I had a screenshot, and they literally telling everyone that who built the XRP Ledger and Ripple were people from NSA, National Security Agency, FBI, NASA as well. And so you have a bunch of people who have NDAs and have a lot of inside knowledge. Let's be honest here. It's the government misguising itself as a private company. That's what Ripple is. And Bitcoin is not what I initially thought it was back when I came to crypto in 2017. I was just a teenager, a naive teenager, where I believed Bitcoin was a way for freedom, was actually a decentralized currency. But as time has moved on, I truly understood that's further away from reality. And it's very interesting that when it was a good entry to actually buy some Bitcoin, let's say at $20,000 or $15,000, there was a massive campaign from the governments trying to convince everyone to not get on BTC because that was a scam. And right now the script has flipped. So you have the president of the United States that openly goes to Bitcoin events very near to the top. Remind you that he was there when Bitcoin was above $100,000. And let's be honest, the time for life-changing gains with Bitcoin, it's over a long time ago. Honestly, if you didn't buy below $20,000, which was a nice solid 5x, it's over, guys. And we have been telling you since uh, years ago. I mean, look at it. XRP was just 50 cents. Bitcoin was already like $70,000. It's not even keeping up with inflation. You had far better chances to actually get some real estate in Greece, for instance, and you would have outperformed most of people who invested in Bitcoin. Now, if you got before 2016, well, congratulations. That was a great point, and that's the point that people should actually get on Bitcoin. Now, you missed the train. I'm sorry to tell you, but whoever has $10,000 to invest, you will never get rich by getting like zero point 0.1 Bitcoin or anything like that, unless you are using leverage, which I don't advise. Bitcoin stands as the destruction, is literally the beta test coin. And very interesting. I came out with this terminology a couple of years ago when I did my own research and I truly understood that Bitcoin is a government product. Satoshi Nakamoto is not who you think it is. It's basically the National Security Agency, and we can see the video from the Homeland Security that has confirmed that Bitcoin, that the US government really knows who Satoshi is. I'm not allowed to say everything that I know about this, but I'm telling you that it was just a test net. In other words, a way for the government to gain control over every single transaction in the entire planet. It's a public
Yeah.
blockchain out there. They can track down everything. And very interesting that everybody says, like the pro Bitcoin people, they are always saying that Bitcoin is a way out of the system. But let's be honest, what is the way out of the system? If you have physical cash, nobody can track your transactions. If you have BTC, on the other hand, everyone from the Genesis block, every single transaction is public, is on the blockchain. There's nothing private about Bitcoin. And in fact, they're getting rid of the privacy coins, just like Monero is one of them. And right now, they're coming with regulations that are trying to stop people from using the privacy coin. So I'm sorry to break the dream, but BTC is not what everyone believed to be, or a freedom instrument, as someone puts in the comments. It's all about control. It was a gateway, and even like that. That's why I have to say that it's better to be an early adopter and an early investor of the technology than to be enslaved by the technology. So right now we are positioning ourselves on the right digital assets so that we can profit, we can take our profits, and we can build a life outside of the system, let's say, because the future is digital IDs, blockchain technology is going to enhance government control. We have a nice opportunity financially, but if we don't take the right steps and protect our freedom, I don't think in 5 or 10 years the situation is going to be any better.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to follow up on the comment real quick. Gianni Russo, mad respect for you, staying subscribed and supporting the work we do here. But yeah, he says, chill out on the gematria stuff, bro. Real dark. There's a difference between being in the dark and opening the door so light can come in, and that's all I'm trying to do here is really just share with people like some of the things I've seen before and what I've researched, because I've been down those rabbit holes, and I try my best to articulate things so people don't have to experience that, because it's not a nice place. To your point, Edo, yes, I think, anything digital, I mean, that's giving up our privacy anyways. And I mean, we need to repeal the Patriot Act. That's what I want to say. And just overall, the Patriot Act is what inevitably created this trajectory to where we are today. They used 9/11 as an excuse to invade foreign countries at the same time to take away our freedoms, And if you even want to go deeper down 9/11, it's crazy. The Twin Towers, it's like the DNA strands coming down. And then they erected one, and that's your hybrid species now. And there's something wrong with this new generation. So maybe there's a connection there. So I'm telling you, I've been down those rabbit holes. Anyways, to your point, Edo, about Bitcoin, I think if anyone is still clinging to Bitcoin, thinking it's the revolution of where this is all going, you're either missing the play, you've been either deceived, misinformed, or you're just not doing the real research. I think you need to follow the infrastructure, not the influencers. I've told people before, don't even listen to me. Go do your own research, right? The truth is already live on chain.
Totally agree.
Bitcoin was the bait and XRP was the real play. It's that simple. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, don't even listen to us. I totally agree. I mean, take some time and go see what the World Economic Forum or the central bank, the European Central Bank is talking about Bitcoin, and you're going to have an idea, or perhaps research of what the Bank of International Settlements or the IMF is talking about XRP, and make your choices. They are not going on public on the television and telling everyone to get an XRP. They're doing that with Bitcoin. Was the last time someone from Ripple really tried to convince anyone to get some XRP? They are very silent about XRP, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we can take this conversation any direction, but I mean, even people are asking about quant. Again, complementary relationship within this community. Having a diversified portfolio is very important. I know a lot of people in the XRP community who actually had to sell their XRP because they had all their eggs in one basket. And I told them to diversify their portfolio. And I'll tell you right now, I'm holding close to 100 something cute quant. And I am significantly down in that thing. So I'm still holding on to it. I don't want to lose money, but I just pay no attention to it. If it has its use case, it will have its use case later on down the road. I believe it will. But again, it's like these technologies can either complement each other or they're going to fade away eventually because they are not actually part of the architecture of where this is going. So that's why, stick to Ripple very closely and Stellar. Yeah. I think Stellar is making some very big moves that nobody's talking about. Even the XRP community, we're so distracted with XRP that we're forgetting to talk about Stellar sometimes,
Yeah, I have raised some red flags about Quant, only for the fact that it's built on top of Ethereum. It's an ERC20 token, and there's a lot of uncertainty for that, so I don't regret my decision. A couple of months ago, I sold my quant for XLM, and that turned out to be a great decision. But honestly, I don't have a final answer. Maybe it will perform well, maybe it won't. I know they have great partnerships. I think it's also ISO to 0022. So you can have from multiple angles. I just think you have better from the return perspective. I think there are better options out there, just like VELOs, SHXs, and other currencies that are far cheaper than Quant. But again, I'm not here giving you a black and white answer. I just really don't know what's going to play out with Quant in the future. Perhaps it's going to perform well. I don't have a crystal ball to answer that.
To touch on what you said for our listeners here, and I think it's very important for us to think about the real threat here is that's inflation. The problem is that the purchasing power of our money that we work so hard for is devaluing faster than we can earn it into our pockets to invest it and deploy it. So what we need to do is think about fundamentals, which is important. We talk a lot about these technologies, right? QNT, I think, has fundamentals, okay? But more like SHX and VELO because it has fundamentals, so that aligns with a long-term strategy for fundamentals aligned with XRP and some of those things. But then you have a short-term strategy too, because the price target you're looking for, a better bang for your buck with the inflation. So you can accumulate a lot of it. So when the market does move even a little bit, you can do what I did. I mean, the whole year of 2024, I'm going to repeat myself again. I was telling everyone to buy SHX and VELO. When January came, it shot up. I took 87,000 in profit. In this market, in this economy, when businesses are going out, when inflation is on the rise, when the economy is slowing down, and life is just getting harder for the average individual because of central banks. You need to take profits. So you have to play the 4-year cyclical cycles. And I think that's the best kind of thing to do. What happened when the market tanked? Took the 87,000 out, paid my taxes. I didn't want to take any risks, right? paid the taxes, got into gold and silver. Gold and silver shot up. Silver's probably back down. Gold is retracing. Okay, but I'm still wealthier than I was the last time. And when the market tanked in February and to where we are today, I've been accumulating VELO now. I'm holding close to 3 million VELO right now. So when the market moves again, I'm going to do the same damn thing. It's really that simple. I think so. I mean, it's never been easier to make money for me. Like, I'm getting good at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you get some experience, you can just predict the cycles. You can actually look for them to money supply. Well, there are so many great indicators, and it just becomes like automatic. You kind of really know where the markets are going, and most importantly, it's important to take profits. I think I love what you said, because with the with the inflation increasing exponentially, people are forced to take profits. So always better to take the profits when the markets are up than to be forced down to sell to pay your bills when the markets have corrected at 30 or 40%. And we just hit 1 hour of the podcast, so time to jump on some final thoughts. Versan, what's your final message for our audience today?
Yeah, again, I just see people talking about QNT, and I got to clarify, this is not financial advice. Your financial situation is your own. Everyone's is a bit different, right? I had nothing at one point, and I just kind of was patient, and the patience really paid off, which gave me the capital I needed to play the game, the right way. So for a lot of our listeners out there, I think the best strategy, if you already have a long-term strategy with XRP and some of these utility tokens, but utility, we know from experience, all of us together, that regulations take time. Obviously. I mean, look where we were 5 years ago compared to where we are today. You could say a lot of the regulatory environment has, been established. Maybe not in the headlines, but it's happening and it's accelerating. But it took 4 years for some of us to see real price action with XRP. And that's why I keep telling people, if price movements in the short term, and that's something you're fixated on, then you're really just a spectator. You're not an investor. That's a long-term strategy, but we cannot wait for long-term strategies. Hence to what I was saying earlier. I know people, credible people, YouTube content creators too, not Edo, that had to sell their XRP because they didn't diversify enough. So when the market moved and XRP didn't, they missed it, right? So you have to take profits because it's better than getting into debt and dealing with the higher inflation. So for the short term, I think it's important to load up on those technologies again that are complementary to what XLM are doing and XRP. That's what SHX and VELO are doing. Ripple is heavily invested into SHX. VELO is, complementary for borrowing and lending mechanism, debt and credit issuance. That means these are like real hidden gems for the blockchain space, but it's happening very slowly. But again, you get those price targets. So at 0.07, you can accumulate 3 million VELO. You really could. And you can have that same aha moment when XRP was in 20 cents because it has a use case. And when Bitcoin does hit 150,000, if they pump money into the economy, Bitcoin will climb, but your return on investment won't be shit on Bitcoin. On XRP, we understand its use case, but we don't want to sell XRP, right? You want to hold it for the long term because it has real utility. I think people still don't get that. When Bitcoin XRP hits $10, let's say, theoretically, why would you sell XRP at $10? Instead, you can load up on VELO and SHX for the long term. And when the market does move and XRP hits $10, it's going to bring those things up to 57 cents, 80 cents, maybe $1. That's when you take your profits from SHX and VELO. And now you can wait for certain geopolitical events to unfold for XRP to have it and reveal its true use case. And that aligns only with regulatory frameworks, which is going to take a while, in my opinion.
He just gave you guys the secret sauce.
I mean, it works. It really does.
Yeah, you just broke it down very simple why it's important to be diversified. Some people might think XRP is the number one, but why should you diversify if you truly understand XRP? Well, the answer is right there. When XRP hits $10, you don't want to just get rid of your XRP for dollars, but you can do the same and achieve great results with VELO, SHX, and other digital currencies as well. Now, my final message here And I think everyone should listen twice to what Versan said. I think that clarified a lot, and that was a wonderful message. He gave you the secret sauce. My final message here is be careful with scammers and impersonators, people who are pretending to be yourselves. They're going to send you messages, they're going to reply to YouTube comments. Don't send your XRP to anyone. I mean, just be mindful that there is no native staking for XRP. So anyone telling you that you can make uh, staking with XRP is lying to you. So you can't on chain to make any profits with XRP. So in any platform, that implies that you need to give away custody. So there's always a risk involved, and in most cases, it's just scammers that are pretending to be yourself. So be very, very, very careful with fake accounts, because every week at least 5, 6, 7 or more people, they are texting me that they lost their digital assets, which are hardly earned. I mean, people are working hard to buy these assets. I don't want to get any more messages of people losing their money because they are falling for fake Telegram accounts, fake Instagram accounts. I mean, there's hundreds of them. We're not going to reach out anyone individually. You can only connect us through the website to the official Black Swan Capitalist for Versan. I have my own private online academy as well. So be very mindful of fake accounts, please.
Yes, 100%. I just want to clarify because we do not ask you for XRP. We'll never send you a message directly. It's true. But if you do go to my website and let's say you book a session, for those who have booked sessions watching here now, I do require for payment, we accept PayPal, we accept XRP, and we accept XLM. Those are the only 3 forms of payment we accept. So I won't be asking you for XRP. I'll be letting you know you can pay that way if you would like to, right? So it's optional. And I have a lot of respect for those people who don't pay me an XRP, just so you know, because you get it. Some people pay us an XRP. I can't believe it, but I'm like, all right, that's great. Thank you kindly. Right into the storage. But we've been accepting XRP payments for 3 years now. Like for 3 years, we've been accepting XRP payments for our sessions.
And that's a great,
yeah.
That only shows that you tripled the money on this time if you held the XRPs, and that shows a lot.
Yeah, Vendel too. He's done an incredible job, and I love his YouTube channel. Please go support his work as well.
Oh, he's doing amazing, phenomenal videos.
Yeah.
I have been watching some of his videos. He's
great. Yeah, Vendel's amazing. I wish he was here with us today, but yeah. Anyways, thank you for all your support. I appreciate you guys supporting our work here too. We're a big family, so lots of love to all of you. And please, if you need anything, you can always reach out to us. If you have detailed questions, I'm going to be very transparent with you right now. I cannot answer it in the comments. I don't have the energy or time. My fingers are hurting. Okay, I have to type this shit up. So just reach out to us at Black Swan Capitalist, and we will be happy to help you and discuss all of the things in detail. And I'll provide you with the documents that you need to sleep comfortably at night.
Versan, someone made that donation and asked a question, so we can look to that very quickly. So I'm gonna display on the screen. And honestly, I don't have the answer for what he's asking, because he says here, if Ripple did acquire Circle, what do you think would happen to USDC or ZBAC? Any thoughts on ZBCN? ZBAC is trying to
kindly appreciate. I kindly appreciate the donation. That will go right back into the business, help us grow. But overall, I mean, this is, in my opinion, I think you have a lot of new on-chain protocols just coming out of nowhere, right? Everybody is coming out with something new. I think, sure, maybe it has a use case. I know it will go up with the cyclical patterns of the debt market and the refinancing. But personally, I stick to what I know best. I stick to what is the infrastructure closest to the capital. That's just me. That's my opinion. Okay. You're always welcome to diversify. You're going to get a bang for your buck as well if the market shoots it up. I don't know enough about ZBAC. I mean, I looked at it once or twice. My friend shared it with me. I just, with all due respect, I just don't care enough about it. And I will be happy to do some research, Yogi Bear, for you from the donation. So I appreciate that. And I'll go ahead and answer it in the comments. So I promise I'll answer that in comments. Okay. You have my word. Just give me like a day.
Awesome, Versen. I also honest, I don't have any thoughts on this particular cryptocurrency. It's so many out there that it's virtually impossible for us to be
Well,
fully
that's the
up.
problem. Yeah. That's the problem. There's too many of these next gen chains, they keep saying, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
But honestly, I'll take some time. We'll do some research and let's see. Perhaps next week we can make some comments on that. Anyways, thank you, everyone. I think we have more than 1 hour and 10 minutes, and unfortunately today people don't have they don't really watch a lot of long-term content anymore. So
Yeah.
we're trying to keep this as short as possible, unfortunately, because I truly appreciate long-term format content.
I mean, final thing, might as well, since we're already having this discussion now, is like I listen to podcasts that are up to 4 or 5 hours while I'm working all day.
I do the
Knowledge,
same.
I thirst for knowledge. All right. I think that's what other people want out there too. You can't explain the global financial system and resetting of all systems in 15 seconds. Okay. I think we need to increase our attention spans and stop looking at so much as shorts. Like, it's so annoying. You have no idea how TikTok sure provides valuable content by people who are putting that out there, but the whole idea of watching something for 15 seconds and on to the next one. People think it's like a stream of information, and we're going to condense it into a straw, right? And kind of like feed people information that way. In my opinion, I can see the results of TikTok, of Instagram, and of OnlyFans too. We can throw that in there. It is destroying this youth, despite what you're putting out there. You need to encourage people to be patient, to listen, to have an open mind, to critically think about things, and to have these discussions. I think that's the way we're going to get out of this, right? You need the devil's in the detail. But yeah, I don't know. Well, that's just me. Maybe I'm too old. I'm 31 now, so I don't know. But
I'm not that old yet, but I think just like you were saying. Anyways, we have another one donating here, so we appreciate the donations. He's adding to the researcher time of ZBCN. So Versan, they are funding your research.
I keep my word. I will do it. I promise you.
And well, thank you, everyone. We're going to see you next Monday with more updated information. You know that 1 week in crypto sometimes feels like 1 year on the traditional finance. And we're going to see you next Monday. Done.
Yes. Be vigilant, guys. Thank you so much. And please, take care of yourself. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.